Any questions on number 1? Give me a thumbs up if you got number 1 correct. Give me a thumbs up, react. Nice. Love to see it, guys. Good job. All right. Number 2 was very similar, but can anyone tell me between number 1 and number 2, which one is positive? Number 1 or number 2? Just by looking at it, before you even calculate anything, which one has a positive slope? Good, Guillermo. Good, Lori Hayden, Alyssa, and Samantha. Good job. Yeah. Number 1 is positive, and you should be able to notice that right away. Before I even calculated it, I knew that this was positive. On the other hand, this one it has a downward facing slope. This is negative. So before I even calculate it, I know that this should be a negative number. So when you're calculating it, you should think about that and make sure you have something negative as your answer. So I'm just going to go right through it, all right? If you have questions, you ask them. Well, let's just go through. So I'm going to use the slope formula. I'm going to find 2 perfect points. I see one right here, 5, 3,000. And I see another one at 15, 1,000. I'm going to put those points in a table to organize it. So I have 5, 3,000 and 15, 1,000. And I'm plugging them into the formula. So I have y2 minus y1, that's 1,000 minus 3,000, and then 15 minus 5. 1,000 minus 3,000 gives me negative 2,000. And 15 minus 5 gives me 10. So my slope is negative 200 because 2,000 divided by 10 is 200. So my slope is negative 200. And what are my units here? Can anyone tell me what the units would be?
Feet per minute.
Very good. Feet per minute. Feet per minute. Again, you take a look at the units that they tell you on the x and the y axis. So this is feet per minute. Then I look at my y-intercept, and actually, just like the previous problem, the y-intercept is at 4,000. This is 0, 4,000. So b is 4,000, which means my equation is y equals negative 200x plus 4,000. Any questions on number 2? Awesome. All right, so for number 1 and number 2, both of those were real world scenarios. So with real world scenarios, you also have to always think about what those numbers mean. So if you think about it, the y-intercept was 4,000 feet, and this is the starting height. And the slope, remember how I always say the slope is telling you how fast you're going. So this tells me that I don't really know what this scenario is measuring. Like I didn't write it down, so I don't actually know. But I know that whatever it is, if it's a person, if it's a car, a bus, something is going 200 feet per minute. So that's the speed that it's going at. All right. Number 3, I kind of did this one with group 1. So I'm gonna do it kind of quickly, but for this one, we did rise over run instead of the formula. And I picked 2 perfect points, and then I had to count how far down I had to go and how far to the right I had to go. And remember, when you go down, it's negative. So it was negative 3 over positive 4, and that was my slope. And then for the y-intercept, I had to look at where my line is crossing the y-axis. And I was able to find that that was at the 9. So my y-intercept was b equals 9. And my final answer was y equals negative 3/4 x plus 9. Now, somebody asked a question, which was, why do I use a fraction instead of a decimal? And the answer to that question is that fractions are better because they tell us the rise and the run. So that -3/4 tells me the direction of the slope. But can somebody remind me, we did this as a group if I was in the online, or sorry, the in-school group. But can anyone else tell me when might you use a decimal instead? So you could have written it as a decimal, but what's a scenario where you would want to use a decimal instead of a fraction?
When you're like talking about money.
Talking about money, good. Money is one. What's another unit that might be better as a decimal? Good. Inches, feet, pounds, ounces, something like that where it's better to measure things as decimals. So either one is correct, but in this case, we like to keep things as a fraction. So that's why my answer was y equals -3/4 x plus 9. Any questions on number 3? Cool. Number 4, let's do this one a little bit more in depth. So again, for this, I'm going to do rise over run because we already did a couple of problems with the formula. So I just wanted to review both strategies. So I have one point here. This is -3, 2. And I see another point. Let's see, what's a good one? Let's do this one, 3, 0. So here's 2 perfect points. I'm going to find my rise and my run. So here I would go to the right. And I see that that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units to the right. And then down, and since I'm going down, what's that going to be?
A negative.
A negative, exactly. So it's 2 units down, so that would be -2. So then, rise over run, this would make it -2/6. Can I simplify that?
Yes.
What can I simplify that to?
-1/3.
Good, yeah, 1/3 or -1/3. So m equals -1/3, -1/3. So that's my slope. And then for y-intercept, I look at where my line is crossing the y-axis, and I notice that that's happening right here. And what is that point?
0, 1.
0, 1, good. So I know that my y-intercept is 1. So my final answer would be y equals -1/3 x plus 1. Questions on number 4? Questions on graphing in general? Any last final questions on writing an equation based on the graph? Because this was the last one for that. Cool. All right. So for 5 and 6, we had to turn these standard form equations into slope-intercept. So I'm going to go through that real quick. We're trying to isolate the y, and it takes 2 steps. So step 1, we subtract 4x from both sides. That leaves me with 6y equals. Now, when I write this down, what should I be writing on the right-hand side?
-4 plus 48.
Good. -4x, because that negative symbol comes with it. And then the 48 is positive, so it's plus 48. Then I'm going to divide by 6. So I have y equals, okay, I'm doing -4 divided by 6, which is going to be a fraction, but I can simplify that fraction. So can anyone tell me what that fraction would be once I simplify it?
2/3.
Good. 2/3, and specifically it's negative 2/3. X. And then what's 48 divided by 6?
8.
8. Good. So that's my equation. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 8. And who can remind me why I would want to do this? Why is it good to be able to convert it into slope-intercept form? What do I know now that I didn't know before?
The slope
Mhm.
and then the y-intercept.
Yeah. So now I know my slope is negative 2/3. Now I know my y-intercept is 8. I didn't know that before. So that's why we do it. Very similar for number 6. I'm going to start by subtracting 6x. And again, when you write it down on the opposite side, we look at the symbol that's in front. So here it would be negative 6x. And since the 52 is also negative, this would be minus 52. You just keep that symbol, that sign right next to it. Now I'm dividing everything by negative 2, so we got to watch our negatives. A lot of negatives here. And that leaves me with y equals, so negative 6 divided by negative 2, what do I get there?
3/1. Negative 3/1.
Okay, so it's a negative divided by a negative. So would that be positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, yeah. Positive 3x. And then I have a negative divided by a negative again. So what's that going to be? 52 divided by 2.
26
Plus
positive.
26.
Plus 26, exactly. All right, so there's my equation. And again, this is useful now because now I know the slope is 3. And I kind of liked how Lauren said this before. This is 3, but really it's 3/1 because that's going to be my rise and my run. And then the b is 26. Questions on number 5 or number 6? Make sure you understand how to get each of those numbers. If there's anything that's still confusing about this, now is the time. Now is the time to ask. Okay. All right, so this is going from standard form to slope-intercept form. Now we're going to go from point slope form to slope-intercept form. So it's still 2 steps, but the steps are a little different. So here, since I have parentheses, step 1 is to distribute, which helps us to eliminate those parentheses. So I have y plus 1 equals 7x plus 14. Now what do I do to get y all by itself?
Subtract 1.
Good, subtract 1, and I'm taking it away from the 14. So my final answer is going to be y equals 7x plus 13. And now I know not just not just 2 things about this graph, but I know 3 things in total. What's one thing I know? What do I know about this graph now?
The y-intercept.
Good, what's my y-intercept?
13.
13. What else do I know?
The slope.
Good, what's my slope?
7.
7. And then what's something I knew from the start, from the beginning?
The points.
The point on the graph. So I look at this +2 and this +1. And what's the point located on the graph?
2. 2.
Okay, Lori Hayden has it. Yeah. Remember, you flip them around. So it's not 1 and then 2. It's going to be 2 and then 1. But then you also have to flip the sign. So this is -2, comma, -1. +2 becomes -2. +1 becomes -1. Now I know 3 whole things about this graph, which is really, really helpful. Okay, similarly here, this one was a little bit more challenging because, yeah, there was a fraction. But that's okay, we can handle it. So here I get y minus 5 equals 1/5 x, and then I'm doing 1/5 times 10. What is 1/5 times 10?
2.
2, good. You can think about it, you got to multiply it by the numerator, divide by the denominator. So 10 times 1 is 10, 10 divided by 5 is 2. And since it had a negative, it's minus 2. And then I need to add 5 to both sides, and I'm adding it to that negative 2. Negative 2 plus 5 gives me
3.
positive 3, good. So there's my equation. What are the 3 things I know? Or what's one of the 3 things? Good, what's my slope?
1/5.
1/5 or 1/5. My y-intercept?
3.
And then what's a point on this graph?
10, 5.
10,
10,
5.
5.
Good, 10, 5. Nice job. Good job, guys. Any questions on number 7 or number 8? Feeling good? Awesome. All right. Here we go, last 2. So these 2 questions, I told you guys to prioritize these because these are really good. This kind of puts everything together. So I have this graph and I need to find all of the equations that represent it. So there's going to be more than one answer. And before I begin, notice that each one is in a different form. So what form is A written in? What's this one? Slope-intercept, standard?
Slope-intercept.
Good, this is slope-intercept. Slope-intercept. How about this one? B.
Standard.
Standard. C.
Point slope.
Point slope. Good. D.
Standard.
Good. Standard. E.
Point slope.
Point slope. And finally, F.
Slope-intercept.
Slope-intercept. Okay, awesome. So that's going to help me out because each one is in a different form, so I have to do a different thing for each one. So I think the best strategy is going to be first to look at the slope because that's going to help me eliminate a few answer choices. Then I'll look at the y-intercept because that'll also help me eliminate some answer choices. And then finally for point slope form, I'll look at to see if the point matches. So starting with slope on this graph, I'm going to not even look at my choices yet. What are 2 perfect points I can choose on this graph?
0, 4, and
1/3.
5, 0.
0, 4, and yeah, 5, 0 is good. 1, 3 is actually, if you zoom in close enough, it's actually a little bit above it's not a perfect point. It's like a little bit above. So that one kind of looks like it's going to be, but it's actually not. So these 2 are good. All right, and then I'm going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it goes down 4, and I know this is going to be negative. So my slope, rise over run, this would be negative 4 over 5. So based on that, tell me, what answer choices could I immediately get rid of?
A.
A is out, good. What else? Is there anything else?
B.
D.
B, D. Well, B and D, we don't know because these are in standard form. And remember, standard form tells me basically nothing. So I don't know yet if I can eliminate those, but I can definitely get rid of A. So that's good. C and E are still in because those are both negative. F is still in because that's also negative. All right, so far I got rid of 1. Next up, let's look at the y-intercept. I actually already had it before. What's that point?
4.
4.
4.
0, 4. positive 4, right? So is there anything I can get rid of?
E.
E. Well, E doesn't tell me, E is in point slope form, so that one I can't
D?
really do anything with. D is in
C?
D is in standard form, so again, I can't really get rid of that yet. So the thing is, what did I just find? The y-intercept only helps me with one type of form. Which form tells you the y-intercept?
F told you?
Yeah, F. F has the correct slope. F has the correct y-intercept, so I can circle F. So I know F is good. Now let's look at the ones that are written in point slope form. So I'm looking at E and I'm looking at C. And remember, those tell me a coordinate point. So in C, what is the point that it's giving me that I should look for?
Five, 4.
5, 4, good. So let's look on this graph and see if 5, 4 is on it. 5, 4 is right there. So can C be my answer?
No.
No, C is out. Let's look at E now. E gives me a different point. What point do I have for E?
-5,
Negative 5.
8.
8.
Good. -5, 8. So let's take a look. -5, 8. There it is.
Yes, miss.
Yes, I have another answer. E is in. Cool. So see how each little thing tells me a different part of the puzzle. So now I'm down to my last two, and these are in standard form, which is useless, right? Standard form doesn't tell me anything useful. So what do I have to do to those equations in order for them to tell me something useful?
Put in slope-intercept form.
Put it in slope-intercept form. So I'm just going to do one of them, and if that one is correct, we're good. And if it's not, then I know it's the other one. So I have -4x plus 5y equals 20. Let's quickly do this because I know we're almost out of time. Okay, I added 4x. I have 5y equals 4x plus 20. Now I divide everything by 5, and I get y equals 4/5 x plus 4. Positive slope, does that match?
Wrong.
No.
Does not match. So I know I needed it to be a negative slope, and if you do the math, you'll see that D is correct. So yeah, I love this problem because this forces you to do everything we've learned all in one problem. So this is a really good type of problem. The other one for number 10 was very similar. Let me just quickly, I'm not going to have time to go through all the answers or how to do all of them, but super quick. A is correct because it's positive slope and it has the correct y-intercept, which means that E is out. And then C is correct because C also has the correct slope, 1/3. The slope is not 3, it's 1/3. So F is out. And then between the ones that have standard form, it's going to be, let me check. It's going to be D. When you solve D and you get y by itself, it gives you this. It gives you y equals 1/3 x plus 1. So you end up with the correct answer. All right, so A, C, and D were the correct answers for number 10. If you guys didn't get to any of these problems and you want to study using this worksheet, this is a really, really good worksheet to study from. So I'll post it on Teams later today and you guys will be able to access it at home. And then other than that, remember that the homework is due tonight at midnight. So if you haven't completed it yet, do it today. It is due at midnight. I haven't put anything new up. It's the same thing that I put up on Monday, all right? So homework due tonight. Use that worksheet to study if you have extra time to do so. That is it for today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Great job on participation, you guys. You did really well today.